This tutorial video is deepening our knowledge of density. So this is the lesson for Friday, October 2nd. On Wednesday, we had gotten started talking about density, and we talked about density in multiple ways. We talked about it, number one, in terms of whether something sinks or floats in water. If something sinks, it's more dense. If something is floating, it's less dense. We also talked about density in terms of compactness of mass. So if mass is tightly packed or squished into a little bit of space, then it's going to be more dense. If it's spread out a little bit over a large area, then it's going to be less dense. We also talked about density in terms of something you can calculate. So density is equivalent to mass divided by volume. It's the ratio of mass to volume. So if I increase the mass, my volume will also increase to keep the density the same. Today we're looking at a simulation called PhET. I'm on Google Chrome as I'm doing this, and if you can figure out a way to, by the way, I got to this document by going to Classwork and clicking on the density simulation that I just posted. But once you open that and then you click on the link, it says Flash Player right here. You should be able to run the simulation without having to download Flash Player. There should be some puzzle pieces maybe that pop up. If you click on those and then click Allow the program to run, then it'll allow you to play the simulation. But if you don't want to figure that out, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to show you the simulation on here. All right, so the first question on the assignment says click same mass and then place the blocks in water. And the question is, what determines whether the blocks in water float or sink? So if I have same mass, okay, so all of these blocks are 5 kilograms. If I put them in water, they don't behave the same way. Some of them sink to the bottom straight away, some of them float a little bit more. So we know based on this demonstration that density is not dependent only on mass, right? Things that are less dense are going to float, things that are more dense are going to sink. And so all of these have the same mass, meaning they weigh the same amount. However, they're not the same size. So we know that another factor that's important here is volume. If you have things that have the same mass, things that have a greater volume are going to be less dense. Things that have a smaller volume are going to be more dense. The second question says click the same volume and then determine or place blocks in water. What determines whether the blocks in water float or sink? So if I click same volume, meaning that all of these blocks are the same size, that doesn't necessarily mean all of them are going to float or all of them are going to sink. So now we know that volume is not the only property that depends or that influences density. Okay, so something's ability to sink or float in water. So if I have all of the same volume, things that have a smaller mass are going to have a lower density, and things that have a bigger mass are going to have a greater density. We can only use mass as a comparison for density if the volume is the same for all of the objects. Okay, the third one says click same density. So if I put all of these in water, all of them float, and all of them float at the same level. So that means that they all have the exact same density. So we see here that density is not only dependent on mass, because if it was dependent only on mass, then the larger things would be sinking, the things that weigh more would be sinking. But we also know that it's also not dependent on volume, because the larger things are not sinking more so than the smaller ones, or vice versa. So density is dependent on both of those things. It's dependent both on mass and on volume. The second part of the assignment says to click the left side material. So if I click back to custom, over here I can choose different materials and I can play around with their mass and volume. So if I start with styrofoam, it has a density of 0.15 kilograms per liter. And let's see what happens when I change the mass. If I increase my mass, okay, my styrofoam is bigger, okay, so my volume also changed. But increasing its mass and volume does not necessarily mean that it's going to start sinking, okay? Because the ratio of mass to volume is the same, 3 to 20 is equal to 0.15. If I decrease the mass, 1 to 6.67 is also 0.15. So changing the amount of stuff does not influence the density. And that is true for other objects as well. If I try it for wood, same thing. If I try it for ice, same thing. A big block of ice is going to float just as much as a small block of ice. Brick, increasing the mass, decreasing the mass, that does not change its density. For all of these examples, density stays the same as I slide the bar across. Okay, so that should help you answer these questions. The last thing that you need to do for this assignment is summarize the simulation using our claim evidence reasoning method. So the question is, does density of a specific object change if you change its mass? Meaning, if I increase the mass, is that going to make something sink more? If I decrease the mass, is that going to make something sink less or float more? Your claim is going to answer that question. Your evidence is things that we did in the simulation to support your claim. For reasoning, I posted in the stream these 3 questions to think about when you're creating your reasoning. Number 1, how do you know your claim is true? Number 2, what would you expect to see if your claim wasn't true? Number 3, is there any evidence against your claim and how do you address it? There might not be any evidence against your claim, so it's up to your judgment whether or not this question needs to be answered in your reasoning. Remember in your evidence that you do not want to include any explanations. So for example, you do not want to say, because the density did not change as we increase the mass, that means that density does not change if you change its mass. You don't want to include any reasoning statements. You don't want to include any meaning statements or any because or therefore or this means that. Okay, you want to just be stating facts. Okay, evidence is just stating facts about what happened. Okay, in part 2, what I'm going to have you do for this is you are basically going to be writing a step-by-step procedure for proving that the density of water is 1 gram per milliliter. So in your procedure, you want to be writing this as though you are writing to an age equivalent peer. So write it as though you're writing to someone who wasn't in class that day or who hasn't been in chemistry yet this semester. A lot of the time when you're writing procedures or you're writing assignments, you assume the teacher knows what you're talking about, but pretend as though you're not writing to me because I will know what you're talking about. But pretend as though you're writing to someone who will not understand what you're talking about unless you add a good amount of detail. A good procedure is going to include the following bullet points. It's going to include a lot of detail, so nothing is implied. The more specific you can be, the better. You want to include the instruments that you're going to be using for your measurements. You want to make the procedure visually appealing and easy to follow. Okay, so you don't want to include a bunch of spelling errors or you don't want to have any run-on sentences. You want to include multiple trials, so you don't want to just be taking one data point because that's not going to provide sufficient evidence to support your purpose. You want to include a high degree of precision and accuracy, so you want to describe how you're going to take good measurements. And you want to include units. Then you also want to include descriptive instructions on how you're going to analyze the data. So once you take all your measurements, how are you going to know if it supports your purpose or not? That's what I mean by that. So a couple things that you want to think about when you're writing this procedure, I'm going to put them in bullet points, and this will help you in writing your procedure. Okay, so you want to think about what instruments you're going to be using. If I'm going to be measuring the density of water and proving that it's 1, okay, how do I find density? I take mass and I divide it by volume. So think about how am I going to find mass and how am I going to find volume of the water, okay? So think about what instruments you're using. Okay, the other thing that you want to think about is how you are going to be organizing your information. Okay, are you going to be putting it into a data table? Are you going to be using some other method? How are you going to record measurements? And also, what units are you going to use? So think about for mass and volume, what are the units going to be? For density, what are the units going to be? Okay, you also want to think about, okay, let's say that I am going to be measuring the mass and the volume of a certain amount of water. You want to think about, am I just going to take one mass measurement and one volume measurement and then that's it? No, right? You want to take multiple data points because that's going to help you to support your purpose, okay? So take multiple measurements for mass and volume, okay? So those things are really important to think about. So you're not writing this as though you're not going to actually be doing this experiment, okay? So it doesn't really matter if you have a scale that measures in grams at home or a graduated cylinder that measures in volume. It doesn't really matter that you have those equipment tools at home or not. You're not actually going to do this. You're just writing it as though you are going to do this, okay? This is just getting us to think about how we want to design an experiment, what things to think about, what things to include, okay? So that should help you get started with this. What I want you to do when you're writing your procedures, I want you to put it into a step-by-step format. So number 1, write out what you would do first, write out what you would do next, okay? But I will tell you, if you only have 3 procedure steps, then you're not being specific enough. I would say a good procedure is going to include at least 5 to 10 steps, if not more. Okay? So that is what we did today. This assignment is going to be due on Tuesday when we meet again. And please let me know if you have any questions about it or if you want to meet outside of class and go over it a little bit more, but that is what we did today.